your birthday?
June. It's a ways away.
June what though? Put my calendar right now.
June 13th.
June 13th.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know exactly what you get for your birthday, by the way. I've already thought about it.
Oh, nice.
Well, I do. I know. As soon as you said it, you're gonna be so stoked what you're gonna do for your birthday.
All right.
Yeah. It's. I'm really pumped to give it to you. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I got people joining left and right. This is great. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome.
Starting up shortly.
Starting up shortly.
Don't keep yourself out of breath running down.
All right.
Yeah, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. We're gonna have to do a little like, come on in here. Yeah, 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes.
Should we start drinking?
I was talking.
2 minutes. Drink.
You know, I've been talking with a lot of our members as of lately. And let's talk with one. And we shared a story about how the time keeps decreasing. Started at 5, pretty good. Went to 4, and she's like, I'm at like 2:30 right now. I'm like, yeah, we're about 2:33 too.
That's what we picked noon, you know?
Yeah, right. Well, it's 5. It's that saying. It's 5 somewhere.
Yeah.
And who picked 5? I guess it's because the work day, right? That's what 5 is. Because it's
We're civilized that way.
we're civilized.
No drinking during work.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So I guess so. Sometimes I like to have a little beverage when I'm doing like a crossword puzzle or like just a puzzle in general because it relaxes me a little bit.
I don't know, man. In France, it's like noon. Lunchtime here, it's like a glass of wine.
And we are right on par. We're right on par with some French tradition here.
French, that's good. A little afternoon soul uplift. You call this.
Yeah.
Right?
It's perfect to take a little nap in the afternoon.
Actually, I heard you drink our Decroux Pinot Noir 2018 Rosé, and you actually become a better person.
I will buy
With each sip.
Yeah, absolutely.
With each sip. With each sip, you become a better person. Or maybe you just think you do.
Perhaps. So we're ready to get this.
Yeah. I mean, we're at 11:59. I mean, I would just give it. I'd give it like another minute or two. You know, just patiently, maybe we can banter a little bit.
Fair enough.
Let's see. Oh, I'm picking up my frisbee golf discs from. Now they don't have an Atascadero. I have them, so they can have a driver and a putter.
Oh wait, so you go? There's multiple K-man
Yeah,
locations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one
That's
pack.
right.
Yeah.
I live by the one in Tascadero, right by Helmet, so
Yeah.
that's where I've always gone to.
We've been doing. Well, I joined for one, and I will join again.
Someday.
I will. But it is so fun to throw those damn frisbees. I really enjoy it.
Well, you went back to it someday, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you do a little session this week?
Yeah, we're making it out weekly with our Ryan and Will Freeman, and then Casey Rideout, who was a long time.
I'll break you guys a deal. I'll bring the cooler with a couple bottles of wine next time.
Wait, so
I'll
wait.
tag along.
Wait. So you're gonna be our frisbee golf
It's like
bartender?
Yeah.
I should say wine tender, I guess. I love it.
Playing frisbee, that's gonna go very well.
You know what I did last time? I brought this jug.
That's good.
I brought this jug, and I filled it up with wine. All right.
You can probably feel about it.
Yeah. All right, we're good to go, guys. Let's
Welcome once again to another week of TH Live. Thank you for hopping on with us once again. It has been a blast to do this weekend, each time around, and the responses have been wonderful. We keep getting questions, we keep getting phone calls, messages, and everything like that. Keep them coming. We really appreciate it. The guest today is our very own Jenn Hoage. Looking forward to this one. Been looking forward to this one. Jenn is a blast to hang out with. So yeah, moving on into it. We got a couple things to bring up real quick before we kind of hop into today's wine, which is the 18 Decroux Pinot Noir Rosé. To start, we are going to be continuing these live sessions for as long as everything remains closed. The goal is to continue these once things open back up. We don't want to start anything here at the winery that we can't kind of see to when business returns to some kind of normal. So there's been, whispers and talks of starting to reopen things. It's still not looking like it's still looking like it's going to be a while before the tasting room is open to the general public again. But just to let you know, we're starting to look at alternative times we can do it, because Saturday at noon will end up being this room will be occupied in all likelihood. So we'll kind of try to fit a different time in. If you've got a time preference or anything like that, shoot us an email, give us a call, message on the video here, and let us know what you think. So, what's new with you, Sarah?
Well, busy time in the vineyard right now for sure. We've been going through, starting already shoot thinning, so it's kind of cleaning up a little bit the vines. Everything has been pushing very well the past couple of weeks now, so just a matter of cleaning those up, making some room for the canopies, keeping what's healthy and not, and then just kind of trimming back those. So there's a lot of work right now. Those plants are not slowing down.
No.
And again, we're trying to do it, with a limited amount of people as well. So it's just keep on going for sure. And so that's going to be occupying our next probably couple of weeks now. Before we want to get it done as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, because we are probably a month away, probably less than that, from flowering maybe.
Yeah, not too far away. The vines are definitely making up for lost time. This year's bud break is later than normal, but we are flying along in terms of growth out there. So
with the temperature we had, and the evenings, the nights are not that cold actually. It's like 50s. Right below 50s, but so yeah, it's been really just ongoing, and it seems like we're gonna be in the 90s for a little bit. So definitely not slowing down.
Yeah, we're getting. Another nice aspect of getting out there early and shoot thinning is kind of saving some of the energy of the vine, and so that way it's got the energy to direct towards fruit development versus just kind of green growth, we would call it, shoot growth. So yeah, it's always one of those things you want to get on as soon as you can and get through quickly. I've seen you out there with Felipe plugging away row by row. Definitely, it's romantic for the first 4 or 5 vines, and then not so much after that.
I've been seeing this spray bottles everywhere of you coming in, like putting on like tons of sunscreen. So it says So with Cyril being from France, I don't know if this is something that happens, but he turns more red than brown.
Yeah, no, for sure.
The lobster tint.
My neck is actually, I feel like my neck is getting some brown colors now, especially after a dusty day out in the field. But
dust covering everything. At the same time, we're always going through ripping and road tilling through everything. Terry's still flying through the vineyard.
He's the best one so far. I mean, he's crushing it.
Yeah, he's got experience.
Right.
And no dust, no glory. I think that Terry just attacks it. So yeah, he's been doing that. I made the mistake of leaving my car windows down in the parking lot here, and I turned on my AC on my way home, and a plume of dust came out from the vents, and I have allergies and stuff like that, so that was a scary time. Scary like 1-2 minutes on the freeway on the way back home. Anyone who saw me, no drinking involved, just sneezing and dust.
And going back and forth on the freeway.
Yeah, it was wild.
On the 2-lane freeway. Yeah. Okay.
It was wild. So let's start off with a question. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good.
These are questions that you, the viewers, submit. Thank you very much for doing it. Keep up the good work, everybody. We love answering these questions. So.
Oh man, this one's for you.
We're breaking pace, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Let me get that one.
What is one of your favorite varietals to work with, and why? I think that for favorite varietals in the area, like overall, I would probably lean often to Grenache or Mourvedre. But honestly, one of my favorites to work with, because of the versatility of it, is Syrah. Syrah tells you where it's grown, how it's grown. It's very versatile in different vineyards. And one of the absolute best things about it is here in Paso, it comes with ample color, which I mentioned before with some of the recent Zoom tastings and stuff like that we've been doing with people. Color allows me to do a whole lot of things in terms of tannin management on the wine. I can get more aggressive with the tannin management. I can back off of the tannin management, but when I have all of that color there, that color is binding with different size tannins and giving me what will be kind of a more permanent, nice round mouthfeel on it. So Syrah is going to be one of those varietals that we can throw a little bit of whole cluster in a barrel, ferment it on there, and come out with a pretty stellar wine. It's hard to get too aggressive with Syrah here, right? It's really nice in Paso. So Syrah would be my favorite to work with. Not always my favorite to drink. I do love Grenache. I think a lot.
Again, I think there's such a large spectrum of style in the Syrah that you will find one that you like, I feel, pretty comfortably, but you're right, not every one of them is my cup of tea either.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing some fun stuff with the Syrah as well, blending a little bit of a coastal component. That was the long ball for last year, 50% from Bassetti Vineyard, which is up in Cambria, and 50% from the estate, and that was a really fun tweak to some Syrah and a little different vantage point of it. Little sneak preview, this year's Lamballe would be actually about 50% of the estate fruit, about 34% Bassetti, and then the remaining is actually Kinsey, so Santa Barbara County. So kind of continuing to expand different characteristics of Syrah from different regions in Paso, and kind of using that to kind of create a very Syrah with a lot of depth and a lot of character to it.
You crushed that Syrah. I love where you took that Syrah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so fun.
I was concerned because I really liked the 17 long ball, and it's like what I've noticed with a lot more of the cooler climate Syrah stuff is that it takes a little more time to come around in barrel. So it's always one of those are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? And I was kind of convinced for a while that maybe there wouldn't be an 18 long ball, and then a couple months ago, I was tasting through some of the cooler climate stuff, and I was like, wow, this is just really singing. It really came around. So we will have an 18 long ball, which is
cool. And what I think is interesting about the long ball, just a little riff, is that what's cool about working here is that Phil really wants to put everybody involved. Everybody tastes the wine, and I think all of us are like, this long ball is amazing. You're such a cool character. The cool climate, he's like, this is so rad.
It's been nice. It's year 2 where that wine right away kind of riffed with everybody, and kind of it's struck a chord 2 years in a row with everybody, which is nice because it's a little different from the profile we typically do.
For sure.
Nice. Thank you for the question. So let's hop into the rosé.
Let's do it. It's been a while. I haven't had a 100% Pinot Rosé actually. I haven't tried the Decroux 18 in probably a year.
This is, we said it right out the gate with our first rosé thing. Pinot Noir rosé is a thing of beauty. It's absolutely an amazing rosé to work with. The sites that we pull from down there, amazing sites with some pretty good diversity from them. John Sebastiano Vineyard, LaMontagne, Radian. We've added Zodovich recently, and so this actually has some of the Zodovich as well, the 18. So this would be Zodovich, Radian, and Cantata, and a little bit of John Sebastiano. And so, just love the nose on Pinot Noir Rosé. Just a nice, vibrant acidity, because Pinot we're picking a little bit earlier on, and kind of channeling a little bit of that Burgundian vibe to it. So, nice and vibrant. Even as an 18, this is really in a nice spot for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It smells really good. Just so elegant, not abrasive, and it's just very, very flawless in there. So do you want to touch on a little bit of what would be the difference between the...
Especially because Lexi, you can't see Lexi.
Can't see Lexi, but
Lexi's here.
Yeah.
She needs to greet people. There's been no one to greet, so she's extra eager about greeting us.
Oh, yeah. But do you want to touch on a little bit of the way you treat the Pinot and the Bam Bam?
So
in terms of the harvest and the sorting.
In terms of the harvest for the rosé here, we this is a Saunier again, but we are picking things for the Pinots kind of with a target lower than we are for the estate stuff. We typically try and land in the upper 13s for where the Pinots are at in general. So the rosé kind of lands at a nice lower alcohol spot than what we would have up here in Paso. Again, these are all Rita Hills sourced, so kind of trying to do a little more elegant rendition from a wine down there. This ends up kind of carrying a lot of that. We Saunier this. We don't have to be as, again, this to bleed. We don't have to be as aggressive on a timetable for this. Pinot Noir is pretty thin skinned, and so pretty light in color. So we're not, it's not a race to get it off. If we're trying to use something like a Syrah or kind of a little darker Grenache, depending on the vintage. So we can be a little more at ease with that. I still typically take it off as we're processing, and then it's such small amounts for the Decroux wines in general that all of the rosés for this get fermented in small stainless steel drums, and we can keep them really nice and cool. So 18 again would have been another vintage where it would be it was all cool, slow ferments, and so these fermented for months. This wine fermented for months in stainless steel drums.
Nice, very cool. Yeah, it tastes amazing. I like it a lot.
Definitely a treat.
Dry, super easy, very smooth.
Yep. I highly recommend. We only have producer Randy now. You guys know? I think 8 cases remaining. Less than that.
Something right around that. It's pretty
Right around
rare.
that, okay.
For sure. We don't produce a lot already, so.
No, we don't produce a lot. So this is
last
kind of down to the bare bones for this. I highly recommend picking up a bottle. If you haven't had 100% Pinot Noir rosé, you're in for a serious treat. It's a delight. Like I said, if I could choose to work with one rosé and have a little more quantity of it, would be this. So go out, buy some, come on, let's get the demand going here. We can make some more.
All right, we have a question, Don. Okay, what should we pair this Pinot Noir rosé with?
One of my favorites for a Pinot Noir rosé, because it kind of almost mirrors the Pinot Noir itself, would be a kind of like dry rub salmon, like something along those lines.
Oh yeah, I can see even like a quick marinated fish, like even ceviche. Marinated with like lemons, a little herbiness to it. This will cut super nice. It's just I think something light and refreshing for sure.
Yeah, the highest along the spectrum, the meatiest that would go on the spectrum would be the salmon probably, but I do think I have had some Pinot Noir rosés with some like cedar plank, dry rub salmon.
I mean, the salmon is a little fatty, so this will just cut that pretty easily, pretty nicely too. So.
I thought, Cyril, for sure you're going to say the Pujadas, the burrito.
How many everything?
How many burritos have you had?
I just had the ceviche last week. It was amazing. It was so good. In fact, I'm having it tonight again. Just putting it out there.
Perfect.
I'm going to pick up a bottle over there myself. Cool, for sure.
Well, awesome.
Cool.
Let's get our special guests rolling out here. What do you say?
Special guest in the house.
The specialist of special guests that we have. One of the fearless leaders around here. The Pinot patron. That's helping us throw a little Pinot party in the Roadhouse. Welcome, Jenn Hoage.
Well, thank you. Hi, Phil. Hi, Cyril.
Hello.
Hey, Brandon.
You can call me Producer B.
She can call you whatever she wants.
It's true. 100%. The wine that she makes? Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. So, Decroux story.
Well, let's see. Decroux was basically born because of the fact that I love Pinot Noir. And so it was pretty easy for me to decide to do it. The story of the name, of course, comes from my experience in Paris when I was 17, 18 years old. I got to spend 6 months studying mime in Paris, and that's a kind of a crazy thing to think that I've actually done that, but yes, I studied mime.
not the most typical thing people want to study. No,
it's not. Anyway, I loved living in Paris, and the teacher that I studied with was Etienne Decroux, and he is a famous mime and taught people like Marcel Marceau and Jean-Louis Barrault and lots of actors and actresses all over the country have studied with him. And his philosophy, of course, was to be able to to teach actors to act, but to do it without any words. And naturally, no words because it's mine, but also to be able to express yourself and to express, any emotion, anything with acting through your body. So he did what's called corporal mime. And so Terry actually helped me come up with the name Decroux, because I couldn't come up with anything at the time. And he said, why don't you use the person who was your mentor? And so therefore I did Decroux. And on the back of every label is some poetry. And the poetry is from one of my friends up in New York. Her name's Elizabeth Cohen. And all of the excerpts of the poems are taken from her book, Birdlight. And I highly recommend it. It's beautiful poetry. And what I loved about putting the poems on the back is that it was kind of expressing a little bit of the site and a little bit of what I loved about each. It was kind of like whimsical and fun.
It is. It adds there's a lot of depth to not only the wines, but even the packaging on the wines. All the details here are there for a reason. You're a wonderful detail person. Leave no stone unturned. And so love that. I absolutely love the poetry on there, and really the whole without words concept.
Yeah, it's fun. It really is.
So
it's been a fun project.
Why Santa Rita Hills?
Well, we did Santa Rita Hills, and then we've also done a little bit in Tally, which is Arroyo Grande Valley. I'm not opposed to other cool sites, but I particularly like Pinot Noir from the really cool site locations. I think its expression is beautiful, although we do make some beautiful Pinots right here in Paso. I decided that Santa Rita Hills ABA would be my go-to. And we picked sites, as you know, because you've gone with me many times and driven some of those sites. But they're incredible, just from the warmer parts of Santa Rita Hills to the closest to the ocean to some sandy, super sandy sites like Zodovich, which looks literally like the beach.
Absolutely. I bring my sunscreen and beach shovel with me when I go.
Exactly. I think if we put, your little girl there sitting on the sand, you would not know that we were in a vineyard.
I don't know if I'd be able to tear her out of there. We got her sandbox, and she does not like even leaving the sandbox. She loves playing in the sandbox. So if I brought her to Zodovich, I might not ever get her out of Zodovich Vineyard. It could be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And then, some of the other sites are just as incredible as well, from, John Sebastiano, which is a warm site, La Encantada, which is a site that's right next to, I think it's, is it Stanford and Benedict? And close by is Radian, and which is another lovely site as well. So, but very, very fun. All of them, despite being in different locations, do have different expressions, and they come off the vines at different times, and it's crazy. So it's been really fun.
Nice. What question?
Yeah. Couple questions. One, talk about the label, the front label design.
Yeah.
And then secondly, where are you pulling this Pinot Noir from for this?
Well, the Pinot Noir is basically, it's a Saignée, which is a bleed, and what it is, this is a combination from the various vineyards in the Santa Rita Hills area. So that's where that comes from. The label itself is kind of interesting because it's a laser cut label. There's only one person, or one company, I should say, in the state of California that produces it. So it's there's not very many people that use the laser cut. But it was kind of mimicking the arrondissement in Paris, and so the shape of Paris and all the little, some people think it feels like lace, but it's actually kind of what the arrondissements kind of look like whenever you look at a map of Paris.
It is amazing packaging. I gotta say, done absolutely wonderfully. We never fail to get comments at any place we go to with this wine about how amazing the packaging is on it. And typically, that some alarm bells go off sometimes when you see something like that. You go, okay, you're putting some lipstick on a pig, but this isn't a pig. I mean, they're wonderful wines.
Yeah,
So the wine stands up to the beauty of the packaging for sure. It's been an absolute education because, like I said, we, growing up kind of in the Paso area, you don't run into too much Pinot. Hanging out in the cellars I was hanging out with, I didn't see people producing too much Pinot.
Right.
So this was kind of a crash course for me when I
Oh, it
was
was a
on
crash
this.
course for me too. My first vintage, I babied completely and had the little 24 S's, and I was ridiculously, meticulous with it. And to me, as we produce this now for a few years, we've gotten better at it. It's the most difficult grape to work with because it has such a thin skin and it's prone to so many issues on the vine, from rot to birds getting into it to, we lost basically one year all of our grapes from one of our sections in Radian, and we had to go to another section because the birds ate all of the fruit. Literally ate all of the fruit, and it's insane. And Phil would drive through these things, and I'm thinking, Phil, don't take your foot off the gas, because it's so steep that the truck would just start sliding down. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to end up down there.
They've planted on some sites down there, Radiant specifically, that I can't even understand the logic behind planting on the slopes that they're on. They told us the story when we were down there that they had a photographer who was snapping some pictures and drove his Jeep down to the bottom. And it had just rained recently, couldn't get his Jeep out. And so he went to talk to the vineyard manager down there, and this is the base of the steep bowl, and he said, hey, can you get some farm equipment down there to tow me out? I said, no, it just rained, we can't get any equipment down there.
It's like a week.
Yeah, we'll give you a call when we can get your Jeep back out. So I've driven ranches up here on Paso. We've got some pretty steep rolling hills. No issues there, but there's a few spots down there where I've been like, I'm just going to park the truck.
Exactly.
Because they're not so
Over
sure to
pedal.
get back out.
Yeah,
Yeah, some of those, the very front Radiant, I'm like, you need to put wires on people, because I feel like you could lose some pickers trying to pick some of
I
those
think
slopes.
their vineyard, the overall vineyard down there is called Sasupitas, which I think in Spanish means get out if you can. And so that tells you how dangerous it is, but it's just pretty crazy. But it's been a fun project.
Quick question. So for this, how long was skin contact on the rosé? How did that work?
Quick. So, 18, by 18, we're moving juice off at processing. And so it would have been tops an hour with it. But as Jen mentioned, Pinot's thin skin, and so kind of in route to the winery, these are all remote sites, an hour and a half south of us. So they pick it, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning and haul it up. We request, hey, as soon as you get it on a truck, get it up to us. So it comes up here, it's pretty much here by sunrise. We're processing, but even in that process of picking Pinot Noir, because it's so thin skinned, you get breakage, you get stuff like that. So even when you're bleeding Pinot Noir right away, you still end up with a little more color on there, due to the fact that you have breakage, you've got stuff like that.
It is, it's a pretty color.
How people make a Blanc de Noir with Pinot Noir, it has to be a very tedious process.
I think you have to pick it and immediately press it. And just get it off immediately. So, but anyway, just some incredible. And also sometimes you get some, just depends on the site. Like with certain sites we get a lot of color.
Yeah.
In certain years we get a lot of color, and in certain years we don't. It's the incredible thing about the Pinot.
Pretty variable.
So Jen, funny story. I bring home Decroux for Tina. Okay?
Right.
I hide that. I literally hide the Decroux, and I'm like, oh, hon, we're gonna have a great dish. We should have the pair of the Decroux. Oh, honey, I drank that already. How'd you find it?
Well, yeah, with Terry and I, it's like, you got a bigger glass. We still do that with all wine, so it's pretty fun.
I can definitely see that. So we have Mother's Day coming up. As a lot of you know out there, we are a all gentleman staff. So sometimes our Mother's Day gift picking abilities aren't the hottest. So, we're seeking some advice from our resident mom here, Jen, and going kind of like some good Mother's Day gift stuff, some bad. What should we avoid for Mother's Day?
Well, I say avoid chocolate because we don't really necessarily need to be eating any chocolate right now. Not getting out as much as we should. Although, it's getting better now that the sun's out, which is good. But yeah, a nice bath, something that makes you feel good. That's always sounds great to me. So,
Nice.
A little bit of bath salts.
Perfect. Yeah, we do have that package put together with some of this lovely rosé, some Picpoul Blanc, and the 16 Rosemary's.
And I love Picpoul.
Yeah.
I love Picpoul.
It is, and it's still a rare find out there. You don't come across too much 100% Picpoul.
Yeah.
So, it's a super fun and very versatile white wine that pairs well with a bath. For sure.
And by the way, in the back we have lavender salts with the bath
Yes.
as well for mom.
Exactly.
Chill them out. Yeah, you can find that. I'm putting a link in right now in the Facebook comments, and also on the Instagram. You go to the bio and click the link there to take right to the
See, it's something a little different than the chocolates. It's kind of like the chocolates sometimes remind me of the ties for Father's Day, where all of a sudden everywhere you go, there's ties for sale. I don't wear too many ties. That would not Faith, if you're watching, go get Dad a tie. And yes, we will avoid getting mom chocolate as well.
We have Lexi in here. Sorry about
It's okay,
that.
no worries, it's all good.
Yeah.
Let's just be careful.
Lex. Did she knock anything
Oh,
over?
just close.
Okay. Hey, Lexi.
There we go.
Stay over here. Stay with me. Okay, we're out. Go outside. Go ahead. Sorry.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Not a problem.
It makes it authentic. I love it.
I know. It's just the fan out today.
Exactly.
So, do you have a favorite Decroux wine?
Gosh, it's like asking if you have a favorite child. It depends on my mood, but I would say my favorite, I go for more of the feminine expression. So I say I go for, if I was going to just pick one, I'd probably go with Blonde Cantata. I know that most of everybody else, although this year we just bottled some of the Radiant and the Zodovich, and I think it was one of my favorite ratings we've ever done. So right now that's killing me, and so is the Zodovich. It's awesome. And that one was really cool because we didn't put any new oak barrels on it.
Not just neutral on that?
Just neutral and some stem inclusion, which was
Yeah.
really nice, and it turned out really great. I don't really have a favorite, no.
I can see that.
It's mood dependent.
It's
very mood
Yeah.
dependent. I get
Totally.
that. Get those questions from people. I will say that I feel like the La Encantada is kind of like the hipster winemaker pick.
Mhm.
I think most all winemakers that have come through all have really loved the Encantada.
It's just so feminine, and there's just it's so pretty. It's just such a pretty wine.
It's a really good expression of that site. I think that site produces, if you're not tinkering with it, you're not getting in the way of it, produces a really wonderful wine.
Well, the clones I think also help.
Clones do help for sure.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions for Jen?
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
I guess I'll let Cyril get back to his seat here, and we'll see everybody.
Thank you for
Cheers,
coming out,
guys.
Jen.
Okay,
Cheers.
bye.
Thanks.
So, if that does not make you want to try this rosé, I'm not sure what I can do. For
Yeah,
you.
I agree.
I can, reach out to us. We can get you some help.
We have orders coming through. I gotta see orders coming through, which is great.
It's wonderful working with Jen on those. Jen, as she alluded to, she is meticulous, meticulous about the details. It'd be easy for them to kind of walk away from the production side at this point, but Jen stays very, very involved, and it's really nice to work with someone who's got like a very clear, distinct vision on what they see and what they kind of want to see for the wines.
And showing us that look that they're there with us at the shaker table. They're out on the shaker table this in the morning, sorting the grapes. It just shows a lot of dedication.
The Pinot comes in and Jen's there in the morning, no matter what each time. And it's like harvest mornings are pretty cold. You know, we can all attest to the shaker tables are freezing cold. Your hands are numb. It can be it could be for hours, depending on how early we're getting to jump on the day. So you know, dedication. But they've had that. I mean, they started just the two of them in 2002, and you know, lost sweat equity and built what we have today. You know, which is fantastic. An amazing accomplishment. You know, most people don't. I think they get into this because it's a very romantic idea. Endure the reality of it for about 3 to 5 years and go, someone else can deal with this for me. They've kept the ship steady and in the right direction for we're at what, 18 years this year.
Yeah.
So that is pretty amazing. Kudos to the host for that. Let's snag another question.
Another question? Let's see if you.
You gonna double up on me today, or are we gonna get a little Cyril info?
All right. Oh, actually, this one is for both of us.
Nice.
So the question is, what do you find to be the hardest part of harvest?
Ooh, what do you find to be the hardest part of harvest? Oof.
Do you want to start, or should I?
We'll let you start it out.
The hardest part of harvest. It's interesting. So the first year I started here, so 2 years ago now, just before my first harvest, going around town, tasting a bunch of wines. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's your first harvest. You know, you're gonna have so much fun. It's amazing. It's 3 months. You know, it's great times." And then harvest came around, and then it wasn't as fun I thought as people described it. It was amazing and interesting, but not as fun, I feel like. The hardest part is, I feel like standing on the sorting table for 6 hours straight. I'm a pretty tall guy. The shaker table are not that low, but bending over it for 6 hours, my back is pretty hurting at that point. So this would be like one other thing, but it's not too big of a deal. I feel like the things that I don't really enjoy is I think the punch downs eventually. This is really what gets me there. If the punch down, if you guys don't know, it's you know, once the fruit is crushed and fermenting, you have your skins and seeds rising to the top due to the CO2 being produced by the fermentation. And every now and then, more rapidly than you wish, you have to, you know, punch that cap down, which is just mixing it back again with the juice, so you can extract more color, more tannins, and just makes things much better. So I think last year we managed to do every 6 hours punch downs, which is fine and fun the first couple of days of the harvest. The first few fermentation you got, you know, it smells amazing, it's always great, but boy, when I remember the first year when there were probably like 12 fermentation going, and that's a lot of punch downs to do, and it takes you a couple of hours to do them, and the round at midnight is not my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, would it be
that leads, I think, into the most difficult aspect to me is that I tell people that once harvest starts, fermentations, the vineyard sites themselves, everything's in constant motion,
right,
and requires constant attention. There's no break during harvest time, and so while both of us work service industry, I enjoy the service rush. This is like the service rush that starts and it doesn't end for 3 or 4 months. So like you have periods of time where, especially on years where I'm not getting myself in proper harvest shape, where I'm going,
Like the goldfish, aren't you the hopper?
The goldfish are probably the better snack versus other snacks that I could be having. The harvest, non-harvest shape, and you get to about, midway through and that you still see no end in sight, but you need to stay focused. I mean, we're out there. You stay focused on what's happening on all specific vineyard sites. As we've had a little more plantings and stuff go in, and more people using things like bird protection, for example. We see more birds coming across the property than we had in years past. So requires again now someone to go out and kind of patrol for birds during kind of key hours where they're honing in on fruit. And try to find ways of protecting the lingering blocks that we pick at the tail end. And that's happening while there's a bunch of fermentations going on here, while we're checking on sites down south or on the coast, or checking on the different developments in the blocks, tasting through, smelling fermentations, taking numbers on everything to see we're getting the proper movement that we need, that we want to see. There's a lot of moving parts, and I got to make a lot of decisions, regarding all of that, kind of in the moment. And so keeping really focused on that and really honed in on that kind of can get a little more tired. The more decisions that I've had to make, a little more tired I get, I think, with each harvest.
I'm sure, yeah. And I remember the first year for me, I tried to keep and understand all of what was going on during the harvest day, during the day, like you say, receiving the fruit, weighing the fruit, sorting the fruit, starting fermentation, starting the inoculation of some of the wines if they were needed. Think about the rosé, think about heads already that needs to be done, and I think I lost complete track. Like after the second or third week, I was just, all right, tell me what I need to do, and I just focus on that one task. Being brand new into that element there, it was just a lot of new informations, new procedures on steps to take to accomplish what you needed to do. Very overwhelming. So, I am amazed on how you managed to keep things pretty organized and pretty straightforward for everybody to kind of work together to accomplish things. Yeah.
We have a question, but I'll add one more thing to it real quick. It's definitely, I just incorporated tricks to keep myself engaged and to try to break up some of the monotony stuff. You guys might not know it, but there's a lot of not creative people involved in the wine science end of stuff. So you end up with it's typically standard naming procedures. You have rootstocks that are just the number that they are located in the vineyard plus a couple letters to it. Everything it sounds pretty boring, and I got really tired of this site, this varietal, this number. So I started renaming fermentations based on whatever random thing. American Gladiators was one theme for some fruit we brought in from a place. Back to the Future characters was another one. We've gone the anime route for some of this stuff. We've gone old school video game, Mike Tyson's Punch Out characters, which is one of my personal favorites. I don't know enough contra names.
Yeah, true. Up, down, left, right.
The code, yeah. But anyway, so coming up with different things, allowing everybody to help join in on naming some of the fermentations and things like that. It becomes a nightmare for other people to track it. 2018, my daughter was born, and the Hoags, Terry graciously allowed me to kind of have a couple weeks when that happened, and that happened right at the tail end of fermentation. And I realized that that's the year that I adopted this new practice, and I left essentially all of these fermentations with these really random names, and it was forcing organization, my new sporadic organization, to fall into the hands of everybody who had no idea what I was coordinating or what was going on. It makes sense in my head, but
it was a bit blurry when you're like, okay, this is, I think. Was it some of the names some of the Mike Tyson's opponents?
King Hippo.
Right. And so you're like, oh my god, what?
Mr.
And then Terry looks at you and you're like, what's in that? Is it Syrah? Is it Grenache? Is it going in the punching in the barrel? And you're like, I don't remember.
I feel bad, but I kind of wish I was a fly on the wall for it.
So
I appreciate the time.
Wrapping up here, a couple things. One, remember that we need to do the gift card question. Two, question for both of you. One of you can answer this, or both if you want to. What has been the biggest challenge in winemaking during this situation we're in right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So essentially, as soon as this situation initiates, we have to we typically bid, work out the crews. We have kind of a rhythm that we're operating in, for one, that everyone kind of has. The four of us here in the front of the house and through the production and vineyard, we all kind of had clearly defined roles, and we could pick up and help each other, and we kind of had an ebb and a flow going to where all the facets were being covered. And the closure of the tasting room and the thrust into a digital market now created a whole set of new jobs, new definitions, and new tasks, and kind of finding the balance now between the four of us of how do we all pick up these new tasks, maintain all of the regular production stuff that goes on, and then deal with a more limited time frame to do it, and a more limited. What starting with is we bid for crews for a lot of vineyard work. Well, we've got to kind of dial that back a little bit, because this kind of definitely puts we got to kind of weigh things out and see where the industry moves and turns to. Post this, we said we have no idea when we're opening back up, so we're constantly sitting down and rehashing what that might look like, plans for that. So a lot of additional creative work behind the scenes, and a lot of fewer, kind of the same number of hands for the core group of people, but in a sense it feels like fewer hands because we've applied all of these new tasks.
Yeah, it's a lot of new aspect, like you say, that we need to tackle, and I think it needs a little more thoughts, a little more reflection between us as well to kind of nail it down to the essential, and then be still pretty proactive on what's going on.
I think flexibility is huge. That's one of the biggest aspects, is being flexible with this right now.
Yeah.
Is something that we've all done, I think, very well, and understanding, like, it's great that we have such a good team. We sat down and talked to Jenn yesterday about, okay, what are we looking for? Always kind of looking ahead and being flexible, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and fortunately in this industry, you have to show flexibility, or I think you burn yourself out pretty quick. I mean, Mother Nature throws you curves in the vineyard. You're constantly dealing with different yields and different fruit and different situations all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to stay flexible with it. And so we have that kind of burned into us and our operations. And so I feel like this industry, we kind of have a little bit of advantage that way, that we can kind of pivot pretty well, because we're used to having to pivot. It just looks a little different how we're doing it.
Right, absolutely.
Perfect.
Agreed.
So, gift card question.
Card question?
Let's see, can anyone dethrone the Gurkies? We shall see. So this is going to be a non-wine related, but a topic that was covered today. What did Jenn study when she traveled to Paris?
What did Jenn study when she traveled to Paris? Okay, let's see.
Let's see.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
while you guys rattle your brains for that, or type it out, in closing here, we have a couple things I want to retouch on. Again, this is going to be something that we continue to do. We've got, next week, we're going to be covering the 18 Picpoul Blanc, and we've invited Eric from Pier 46 to come out and do a seafood taco to pair with that. It's getting right into that weather out here, so I'm really looking forward to that. We'll also touch on the 16 Decroux Pinot Noir. All three of the wines, the Rosé today and those two wines next week, are available online. We've created a special Mother's Day pack that includes some lovely bath salts.
If you're on Instagram, click the link in the bio. If you're on Facebook, it's right there. And you see the link in the comments.
So we'll continue to do these, as I said. We've got several more planned out. You can find on our events page on the website. You can find them on the events on our Facebook page as well. We will continue to plan on doing this every Saturday until we can get a idea of when reopening will happen. And at that point in time, we will continue to do the series. We'll just move it to a different day and a different time. If you have a preference, let us know. Reach out to us. We're definitely kind of looking out there and looking at some metrics and seeing who's coming from where and trying to come up with the time and the day that seems like it'll work for everybody, but we could use your help for sure.
And by the way, shout out to Lori Thompson. She got it.
Nice job,
Good job, Lori. I'll be in contact with you, and we'll discuss how you want to get your gift card.
So what was the intro, by the way?
Corporal Mind.
Corporal Mind, yeah.
Corporal Mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely love that. You know, we've talked about it. We've been doing the Zoom meetings and stuff like that lately, and I was talking with Terry and Jenn about it, and I go, the strangest thing is that I can see maybe half the faces of the people who are on some of these on the larger Zoom tastings, and you know, so much of communication is nonverbal. And so what she was studying was all of that nonverbal communication.
You know when she's pissed at you. You do.
So, you know, yeah, it's interesting. Interesting, you know, when she was talking about that, it was just rung true for all those conversations, is learning to communicate in a whole new, not necessarily nonverbal way, lean a little bit more on what people are saying versus what you're seeing, which has been interesting.
Nice.
All right. Well, I know we better. You got to get back to shooting out there. I've got some topping that I got to do. Brandon, you got some phone calls you got to be making, man.
Yeah, you might be hearing
So
from me.
you
You might be my list.
You might be. You get a phone call from Brandon, you'll enjoy it. He's a really good guy on the phone. So, thank you again for joining in, and yeah, look forward to talking to you guys again next week.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much all.
Enjoy the weekend.